So Joshua Buatsi is signed to fight Dan Azeez in a WBA light heavyweight final eliminator. Dan Azeez was apparently in negotiations with Matchroom to get a straight crack at Dmitry Bivol, who is the WBA light heavyweight champion, but he's apparently turned that down. Presumably he didn't like the terms of the deal. Again, presumably there would have been a rematch clause in there, whereas if he beats Joshua Buatsi and becomes mandatory, he gets a shot at Dmitry Bivol, and there will be no rematch clause in that contract. If you don't know, under standard mandatory rules, as a mandatory challenger, if you beat the champion, there's no rematch clause. You can insert one in there if you choose, if you agree it with the champion, but you don't have to. It's an optional thing, and in most instances, it's best not to do that. You want to be able to beat the champion and then sail off into the sunset and do whatever else you want to do in your career and not get bogged down rematching the guy. Anyway, Buatsi versus Azeez. Now, Buatsi is 17-0, 13 KOs, former Olympian and so on. Stands 6'2" tall, 74.5-inch reach. Originally from Accra, Ghana, but grew up and lives in London in the United Kingdom. 30 years of age now, so he's got to get a move on. He's trained by Virgil Hunter, does his camps out in the United States. Dan Azeez really came up on the small hall circuit. He's 20-0, 13 KOs, 33 years of age, 5'10" from Lewisham in South London. So these are both South London boys. Now, Joshua Buatsi definitely has the better resume so far. Not like he's got a star-studded resume, but it's definitely better than Dan Azeez's resume. He's fought the better opposition. For example, Dan Azeez hasn't fought anyone as good as Craig Spider Richards, nor has he fought anyone as good as Ricards Bolotniks. Dan Azeez, who's his best wins? Shakan Pitters and Rocky Fielding? I mean, Rocky Fielding was semi-retired living out in Dubai, and he's a super middleweight. He was just completely over the hill. And Shakan Pitters, I don't think was ever that good to begin with. And other than that, there's really nobody on Dan Azeez's record. Well, Hosea Burton, I mean, he was never that good to begin with and was probably past whatever his best actually was by the time he fought Dan Azeez. Remember, he got stopped by Frank Buglioni back in the days. He lost on points to Ricards Bolotniks, but he took quite a beating in that fight, Hosea Burton. So, yeah, Buatsi has definitely fought the better opposition. And I think Buatsi is the more talented of the two. Dan Azeez is a real blue-collar fighter. He's a trier. He keeps his hands up. He tries to do all the fundamentals as well as possible. He's extremely physically fit. He's mentally tough. You have to be when you're not as talented as other fighters. You have to be really mentally tough and really on point with your defense and technique and really physically fit to compensate, as I say. Will it be enough to overcome Joshua Buatsi? Personally, I don't think so. I know they've sparred many rounds in the past together, and that should help Dan Azeez to some extent because he knows what he's letting himself in for. He knows some of Buatsi's moves and whatnot, but it's different when a guy's hitting you with those little 10-ounce fight gloves. That's when you find out what his power is really all about. Robert Helenius discovered that when he fought Deontay Wilder. They'd sparred many rounds in the gym with big 18, 20-ounce gloves on and headgear. Not the same as when you get in there with the little 10-ounce gloves on. When the punches land in the fight gloves, it has a completely different effect. With that being said, Buatsi didn't impress in his last fight against Paweł Stepien, the Polish fighter. Not like he came close to losing or anything like that, but he definitely didn't shine. He didn't look impressive. He was coming off a long layoff. Was he jet-lagged as well? I don't know. But that wasn't the Joshua Buatsi that we've seen in the past. He wasn't explosive. I know he was in there against an opponent who really didn't want to fight, and sometimes that can be difficult because the guy just won't open up and it doesn't give you the opportunity to find gaps for your punches. Be that as it may, you feel like the old Joshua Buatsi of a few years ago would have got rid of this guy. You know, we're talking about Buatsi like he's over the hill. He's not over the hill, but maybe the inactivity has made him rusty. There's some people who feel that Virgil Hunter's not the right trainer for him. That Virgil Hunter's too defensive-minded when Buatsi really, by nature, is an attack-minded fighter. So if you teach him too much defense, you might take the edge off him. That's the thinking of some people. I'm not saying I necessarily agree, but I know many people feel this way. Time will tell, I guess. If Buatsi is anything like he was, let's say going back to the Bolotniks fight, that was the last time I was really impressed by Buatsi. I thought he did a real good job of breaking Bolotniks down and taking him out late. Before that, he knocked out Dos Santos in 4 rounds. That's the guy who was crying, like hysterically crying after he came round from being KO'd. I've seen that happen to quite a few people over the years. They get KO'd and they just start uncontrollably crying. Seen it happen to guys in the gym, seen it happen in fights, and even in professional fights on television, I've seen it. When Oliver McCall knocked out Henry Akin one day. When Henry Akin one day came to, he was crying his eyes out. It's a strange thing, but some guys react like that. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, I think if Buatsi is anything like he was, as I say, against Dos Santos or Bolotniks, he takes care of Dan Azeez. Does he stop him? I think he has the power to, if he lands the right shots, but Dan Azeez knows how to cover up and protect himself, so he might make it difficult. But ultimately, I just think Joshua Buatsi is going to be too talented for him. He is the taller guy. I don't know who's got the longer reach, but he's the taller guy. He's the faster guy. He's the more explosive guy. And I don't see Dan Azeez managing to bridge the talent gap. I could be wrong. Dan Azeez is obviously confident of winning the fight. If he wasn't confident of winning the fight, he would have taken that match against Bivol, right? So he must be confident he can beat Joshua Buatsi and become the mandatory challenger for Bivol and get himself a better deal. And he's not supposed to listen to people like me who don't think he's going to win. In boxing and in anything else in life, really, everything starts with belief. You have to believe you can do it to actually give yourself a chance. Even if it's just a small chance, belief gives you some chance. But just speaking as a boxing fan, based on what I've seen of both fighters, yeah, I'm not expecting Dan Azeez to get the victory here. I'm expecting that to go to Buatsi, and then he will move on to challenge Dimitri Bivol for the WBA light heavyweight title. But this should still be a good fight, domestic dust-up. I hope that Sky don't do anything silly and try to put it on pay-per-view. That'd be shocking. This is just a really good Sky Sports Saturday fight night. That's what it is. And as I say, they're looking to do it in October, apparently. Let me know what you guys think about this matchup in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.